Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to the Weekly Armchair. I hope you're all well. Another one of those again today, isn't it? Probably a little bit hopeful. Obviously, Bournemouth in a relatively good run of form, played some good football this season, trying to kind of bounce back and get some sort of result, and obviously momentum going. Not quite happened today, has it? 2-2 in the end. Very lackluster. Lots of issues with Ten Hag, I think, today. Again, we will talk about that and cover that in a bit more detail. Everyone in the comments, get your comments in, get liking, get subscribing. I'm back for a change, and here we are. Stu, Dec, great to have you join me, my good men. Over to you then first, Dec. Good to meet you, buddy. First time I've been on the show with you. How you feeling after that? You're on mute, bro.
You're on mute. If you just go to the bottom of the screen, just that's it. Yeah.
I suppose deflated is one way. You're always hoping to bounce back after some poor results, and I suppose I went into the game full of optimism. And as this season has shown, that can be taken from us very quick. We're just not putting in the performances this season at all. And even when we get back into a game, we give a chance away straight away. And that's the worrying aspect of the way we've been playing all season. Very lucky, I suppose, at the end. The penalty call went our way. I didn't think it was a penalty. So delighted that went our way. The ref seemed to have a strange one today. Very strange calls with fouls and everything. Yeah. No, it's been our season in a whole. We've expected a lot, haven't got a lot in return.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this backstage, actually. And listen, I do want to cover the game. I do want to kind of go on to the big points and all the talking points for that. But Stu and I, before you joined us, Dec, we were talking about the kind of fan expectation. And you look at last season, you look at how well we did. A lot of fans last season were kind of saying, they were trying to be pragmatic about it and sort of say, look, we've overachieved. We got the Carabao Cup. We played very well in the league. We were getting results. We didn't lose many games. And almost, I think it was Murto last season and maybe a few others as well. They kind of had the expectation that after you've had such a good season and you've overachieved, you are expected to have a bit of a slump. And I think we have had that. I think Ten Hag has been poor this season. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But on one hand, you can't say, look, we've had a great season, we've overachieved, then all of a sudden when we're having a poor season, which we absolutely are, it's not going to be brilliant every year on year. We can't, we've got to try and look at the fundamentals. And, 4 seasons, I say this every damn week, I come on, 4 seasons, 4 different managers, lots of players that we need to get rid of, not recruited well. How can you be any more expectant on any improvement to that? Do you know what I mean? And it's very, very difficult. It's difficult for me because I do rate Ten Hag. I've seen his frailties. I've seen his poor management this season. It's not been great. His choice of personnel and his substitutions. We've seen all that. I get that. But at the same time, shit trickles downhill, and we have to be aware of that, and today wasn't a good example of it, and we've got lots to change. We know we've pretty much written the season off, but you've got to try and be as fair as possible, I think, and it's very difficult to do, so I get that. Anyway, Stu, rant over from me. How you doing, buddy? Great to see you. It's been a little while.
It has. Well, I wasn't overly surprised about what happened in today's match. We've seen it certainly for the last few games, how fragmented we are in the middle, so possession sustainability is absolutely impossible. There's absolutely no way that the way that the lads are playing and circulating in the middle of the pitch, we're going to be able to maintain and hold possession. It's just not going to happen. Hence, you saw this gaping chasm in the middle for Kluivert's goal in particular. You saw a huge gap between Kwambala and Dalot, but Dalot is doing his usual not looking where he is, concentrating on himself rather than concentrating on the team unit. But I'm kind of with you on Ten Hag, Mark. I think Ten Hag's made some fundamental errors this season for sure. He really has. But yet he's maintained a level where we have been competing. We've just chosen to fall away. And what I mean by that is that the players have decided to turn up some games, and other games they've decided not to bother. Yep. And this is a fundamental issue that we've had with this squad for 10 years now.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
Long, 10 years. Nothing's changed from this group of players. And I think, Ineos and the team have got to look at that and think, well, the difference between when Sir Alex was at the club and, when Sexton was there and when Doherty was there, you didn't have player issues. You did have player issues, but there certainly wasn't player power. There's no agent power. Whereas, you won the clock forward and you've got that today. There was some clever play by Bournemouth. I thought the pitch was a bit of a masterstroke, if I'm being honest. I thought that was excellent play. You haven't seen that type of shithousery in the Premier League for years. All pitches get watered, but not absolutely drenched like that one particularly was. And obviously all the Bournemouth players came out in the right footwear, and we didn't. We came out in a variety of different studs. We were better second half. The pitch had dried up a little bit, but we were wearing the right footwear. What amazes me about this group of players is the lack of aggression. We just have this lack of aggression when you've got players that are willing to run at you, players that are willing to commit you, take you on, and you've got to put a real strong tackle in on these guys. And we're too nice as a unit, and we're too nice as individuals. And then we've got massive issues with Casemiro at the moment. He's just not playing. Maguire's playing injured. That's obvious for anyone to see that he's playing injured. You're playing Wan-Bissaka at position on left back due to our injury issues, when really you could play three at the back. You could quite easily play a 3-5-2, mix it up and do something completely different. So today's fall guy was Garnacho. A lot of people wanted Rashford off, didn't they? Mino is very, very quiet again.
He was,
He wasn't able to have his influence. Dalot poor, Wan-Bissaka poor. I could go right across the team really. The one that only player that really stood out for me, and I've been critical of Bruno for the past 6 to 8 weeks, it was Bruno. I thought Bruno. So interesting conundrum. There's going to be an absolute massive call for Ten Hag to be replaced. Idiots. Who are you going to replace him with? First and foremost, who do you replace him with?
Well,
secondly,
I think the pool of managers at the moment is actually very, very
they're going to fuck off to Bayern Munich, Liverpool, fucking Barcelona, potentially Real Madrid, potentially Juventus, Roma. There's all these clubs that are looking at managers. Depending on what happens with City, Guardiola could flee the nest. You just don't know. We are so far down the pecking order for a top manager.
I agree.
But then what do you do?
There's no manager that can motivate those players. There's no one out there at the moment. I don't see Eric Ten Hag as the problem. I think we need to get rid of half the players that are there. Yeah. There's no one that could work their magic with that group. Definitely Bruno stood out today. He at least put in a captain's performance. I've been critical of him all season with him rolling around and whinging. Yeah. At least he tried to put in a shift today. And that's what we as fans want. We want to see players putting in tackles and busting their gut for 90 plus minutes. Mm-hmm. And too often this season, this crowd of players have actually left the club down, Bournemouth, you could see their passion, their aggression today. Playing against United, that's team's biggest game of the season. So, if they can put in a shift, we should at least expect the same from our players.
Yeah, absolutely right. Just because I want to stay as positive as we can, I'll give you a few little fun facts for you. So I went to Bournemouth University, so it's quite close to me, and I always used to watch a lot of the games. So before the Vitality Stadium, Dean Road, Used to go down there a lot with a lot of my mates and watch a few of their games. So just a bit of a fun fact for you. Not that I support them in any way, but saw a lot of their games when they were in Division 3 and working their way up the tree. Yeah, massive problems. I think in the middle of the park at the moment for me. I know that we haven't had a stable back four, which is always a massive problem. I think people forget about that a lot. You know, we like to talk about it when it's in front of us, but ultimately, having a stable back four is massive, and we have had so many relationships with the back four. We talk about it all the time. Okay. But I said this to Stu actually the other week in another chat. I feel like the middle of the park, obviously the biggest problem, but actually I feel like the number 6 position is the biggest problem for me again at the moment. Casemiro obviously came in, a lot of money, on big wages. We know that. He did absolutely phenomenal last season. He's really dropped off this season. We know that, okay? And we talked about getting, potential replacement. Cobby potentially being, learning from him, even though he's not number 6. But I feel like the transition between that number 6 role, when we pick it up at the back to play it forward and get that ball forward, is a massive problem. Now, the reason why I say that is because Casemiro has obviously been very, very sloppy. He still is quite stalwart as a sort of defender, but what we saw last season, he was able to get the ball and progress into the field very, very quickly, and that's what we've been missing. And I think that's why, as I said, on that transition, we're not building up quick enough. We're not getting it to the front players, and of course, Højlund, we know is a quality player. Can become a very good player, is struggling for that service, and that's kind of that whole relationship within the middle three, but particularly that number 6, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree, but Dec, I'll come to you on that one first.
You can see it in every game. We're too slow moving it out. God, I remember when we started watching football. The goalie used to kick a ball out. What is this where we have to pass it out and slow the game down every time? I can't understand it. It drives me mad. And then when you see Onana trying to even throw out a quick ball, our lads are just jogging up the pitch. There's no making a run for it. Nothing. The disconnect between the defence and the midfield is evident for everyone to see. And that's why teams are putting pressure on us, because we're so slow at building the game out from the back. It's a detriment to us in every match. Teams know what we're going to do now. I don't know what Bright Spark came up with. Harry has to kick the ball to Onana so Onana can kick it out. I don't know. It makes no sense to me.
And just to be clear, again, Dec, I don't know how you feel about it. This isn't a slant on Onana. I think he's trying to do what he's trying to do. I think he's performed very well over the last few weeks, and I think he's just there to kind of pass the ball out. But I think it's actually the players in the middle of the park on the receiving end that aren't really doing much with it when they do receive the ball from him.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. You can see it. We definitely need a full overhaul of the squad.
Massive.
With Casemiro, I think it's just the pressure of the Premier League. Is probably the fastest league in the world, and he's obviously it's been taking its toll on him. And we don't really have anyone on the bench at the moment that can come in. We have too many injuries at the moment. A lot of teams are going to point out that every team has injuries, but we seem to have definitely been affected, especially in defence, with injuries. I'm liking what I'm hearing from Ineos and Sir Jim. I think they have a good plan in place. I hope they don't think that they need to replace Eric to fulfill this plan. I'd like to see him there for at least a few more seasons. We saw when we stuck with Fergie what happens when you give the team a proper basis to work out from. Changing the manager every couple of years isn't going to work for us. It hasn't worked the last 10 years.
Just a couple of points on that, actually, Dec. That's really, really a astute point by you, really. We talk about the sort of turnaround of managers and, how managers last a couple of years, and that's just the way of football. I don't agree with that, actually. I still think in, like, any business, including football, whatever that might be, I still think you need longevity. I still think you need some sort of foundation to continue going. What I do believe is that the teams that stick behind the managers, i.e. Klopp, you know, when he first came in, didn't have a particularly good couple of years. There were talks about getting rid of him, but they stuck by him. And I still believe that in order to be successful and thrive, whether or not you've got poor people above you or you've got a whole new remit coming in, you need to have some sort of stability. And I do believe, much to the behest of lots of other people, I'm sure, if you get rid of Ten Hag now, even in the summer, I don't think that changes anything. You've then got 5 managers worth of players. We're still struggling to sell. You need that foundation. You need to move on. Do you know what I mean? And
100%, yeah.
It's all hindsight. I know it's a wonderful thing. Who knows? Someone else might come in. They might do brilliant. Okay, I was wrong. You know what I mean? But I just think that there needs to be that stability. Stu, I don't know if you want to come in on that at all.
Look, I've been talking about it for months, months and months and months. In fact, I'm like a broken record. I've been talking about it for years. When people are pinpointing certain elements that the players aren't being coached properly, etc., etc., etc. It's just an easy way of pointing the finger at one particular person when football is all about a collective. You know, anyone who's pulled on a pair of footy boots can tell you it's about a collective. Anyone who's pulled on a pair of footy boots can tell you that they worked on a variety of different things in training on a Tuesday and Thursday. Come Saturday afternoon, the game dictates how you play. You don't, unless you can dictate right from the very, very beginning on how you want that game to pan out, usually the game will have a way of evolving that has absolutely fuck all to do with what you learned or practiced on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And people seem to forget this. People seem to forget that when you walk onto that pitch, you're going to a hamster wheel and you just keep revolving and revolving and revolving and revolving until 92, 93, 94 or 99 minutes as it was today is passed. And these players don't seem to be able to find a way of understanding and getting off the hamster wheel, during a game. And they have this inability to completely slow the game down, put the foot on the ball, knock it 2 and 3 yards rather than having to go 30, 40 yards or try and move it quickly all the time. You don't have to do that. Football's about, sometimes some of the best players in the world, you will notice they'll be motionless once they receive the ball. They're motionless for a reason, because everyone else is running around, jiggling around, and the best players in the world are just saying, just drop it here, mate, and pop it off. And he's maybe moved 1 or 2 inches, where everyone else is running around like fucking flies. These are some of the very, very best players. You watch Rodri play, that's how he plays. When Casemiro came last year, that's exactly how he played. He would jog 1, 2, 3, 4 yards, stop, head on the swivel, look around, he'd position himself ready for transition all the time. Wherever he was in the pitch, he'd position himself for transition. And what he would do is he'd go pretty much central, so he could arc. He could arc left or he could arc right. And that would enable him then to pick up the loose position in transition. That's not happening at the moment. For whatever reason, I don't know. Casemiro's just head isn't in the game. Mino's struggled the last couple of weeks, but you'd expect that.
Yeah, 18, 19 and he's been sensational for weeks. So
Garnacho today was one of those. I thought it was a bit harsh, actually, tugging him, to be fair. I'd have kept him on, just kept him going. He looks tired. Thought Ahmad looked decent when he came on, but ultimately, as much as people say it's all down to Ten Hag, or it's all down to this person, that person, it isn't. It's down to the collective group. And if you can't look at yourself in the mirror when you come off that pitch, and you can, look at Bruno or look at anyone else and say, look, I played my game, I was at 100% today, then that's just the way it is. And if you can't do it, then nobody else can do it. So you just people have got to start using the brains a bit when they're crossing that line and starting to understand what it means to play for Manchester United again. Because these guys just turn it on or turn it off, and they're like, it's like a fucking light switch. It really is. It's that bad, mate.
And that's it. No player should need motivation to play for Manchester United.
Should they?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you should realise that you're playing for one of, if not the biggest club in the world. And as you say, they're turning up for a game here and there. They're putting in one good performance. Then we get 3 bad performances, you know. And I think that's the problem that we've had for years. It's been the player power. The player power has dictated when managers go. The player power has dictated ludicrous contracts for themselves. Agents have come into it and ruined the club, you know. And I think that's why we should be sticking with Eric, because the foundation has to be from the management down. Leave him get in who he wants. Get rid of these players that have bled the club dry and have lived off one good game in probably 2 seasons. That's what we need to do to get our club back to where we want.
Yeah, but we're looking at 5 years though. We're looking at 5-year span from today. By the time we get any kind of consistency in our play and our approach, you're looking at 5 years, at least.
What I would say on that actually is, I think this kind of player power notion is at every single club. I think that
It is.
Yeah.
Agents have got a massive power. I think players have got a massive power. I think the difference between United and some other clubs to everybody else is that because we've had such a poor mentality structure above us, you know, we enable the player power to really take over the club compared to others, right? Because I can assure you, City, they've got massive wages. Chelsea, they've got massive wages. I know Chelsea are a bad example because they're in a bit of a shit as well. But, you know, City and Liverpool, they've got players on massive contracts. You know, they've you know, putting a lot of money for them. But they're not in the media so much. There's not all this notion about negativity around them. Do you know what I mean? I just think we handle it, and we have handled it so poorly, and that's down to the club structure. And I think that's the difference between us and real big clubs out there.
Well, it was down to the Glazers. They employed
100%.
people that were great for making money, but not too interested about what happened on the pitch.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the thing. They use us as a cash cow and their dividends. And once the club was making money for them, they didn't care about what was happening on the pitch, in my opinion.
Yeah,
anyway.
No, I agree with that. I do agree with that. Right, I'm just going to... I don't really want to talk about the game too much today. Obviously, I said that we were going to earlier, but I just, you know, it's a bit of a frustrating one today. We've come back, and I've come back, and it's just one of those. Another game, another lot of points dropped. We're not looking for anything this season, and it is what it is. But what I do want to talk about quickly is the... Oh, bollocks. I've shared the wrong one. Bear with me a minute. For Christ's sake. That's not what I want to do. 1 second. I'm sorry. What I did want to talk about is the next lot of fixtures that we've got going on. For some reason, I can't get the right screen up now. So obviously we've got Coventry in a good run of form next week.
So we got those next weekend, haven't we?
Yeah.
That's right. And I need to make sure this is the correct one now. Yeah. So United fixtures, Coventry next weekend, and then we'll obviously go through the next run of games. So, oh bollocks! There you go. So yeah, Coventry obviously FA Cup semi-finalists. Great that we've got that far. I know that obviously we'll do a show on this going forward in the next week or so. But Coventry next, Sheffield United bottom of the league. Gave Chelsea a run for their money the other week. Obviously got a goal against Liverpool, lost that 3-1. Got Burnley, another team that are struggling at the moment. Palace, another team that is struggling really at the minute. Of course, we then got Arsenal, Newcastle, which has come into a run of form. Brighton seem to be picking up a little bit. What are your views, and I come to you, Dec, on this first. What are your views in the next run of games? As I said, we're not really looking for anything. We're not really sure where we're going to end up. Doesn't really matter now. But out of those games, what do you expect us to do, and do you think we should be winning the majority of those?
Realistically, and what this season has taught us is we don't know what to expect from this United team. You'd expect us to go and beat Coventry, but I mean, it all depends whether the team go out and put in a performance. That's the one thing that's confused me so much this season. There's games there where you'd expect to win, but with this team, we just don't know.
Well, today's one of them, really, isn't it? Today's one of
Yeah.
them. Look, Bournemouth are in a good run of form. They've done well in the this season, really. But it is one of those games, regardless of where you go into their ground or not, we should be getting 3 points. And we would be saying that in the previous years, wouldn't we?
Oh, 100%. You'd be expecting to go there. You'd be expecting the 3 points. And you'd be expecting to go into Coventry, beating them, getting to the FA Cup final. I mean, all our home games, we should always be winning anyway, no matter who comes to Old Trafford. And that's what we were used to for a long time. But now the fear factor seems to have gone from Old Trafford at the moment, and that's what we need to get back. No matter who comes, we should be putting performance to make the supporters proud of.
Yeah, absolutely right. Stu, you want to go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, look, I'm looking at the fixtures. I expect us to beat Coventry, Sheffield United and Burnley. Going away to Crystal Palace is where I think we'll start to trip up. I think that's going to be our problem. We're not going to beat Arsenal. Arsenal are going to be in a dogfight for the title.
Yeah,
they can't. They won't be able to afford to come to Old Trafford and drop a single point.
Yeah.
By then, the way that City,
I don't think they'll be expecting to either. And that's
no, they won't. The way
I'll be there. I'll be there that day, so I'm hoping we actually pull off a miracle.
I hope for you, Dec, that you have a great day and we do get 3 points.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. The way that Newcastle tore Spurs apart today, we would have conceded 8 today against Newcastle. And Brighton, you never know what you're going to get with Brighton. So, and that takes us to July. So for me, Coventry, Sheffield United, Burnley, winnable. Draw against Palace, loss, probably a loss. Draw against Brighton. And I think that's how we'll finish our season. I really do. I just can't see us beating Arsenal. Arsenal in such a dogfight. Arsenal have got us, the third from last game in the season.
They're going to need the points.
They have to beat it at Old Trafford, and we could be out of it by then anyway. We could be looking and preparing for an FA Cup final, which we should be. It's that's how I see it, Mark. I just can't see anything different than that. Yeah. We should be beating Palace at their place. But the way Newcastle played today, Jesus. If we were at St James's Park, we'd have been on the wrong end of about 8 goals today. Bournemouth should have scored 4.
Yeah, they should have. Yeah, they should have. I mean, they at the bar, we at the bar. Yeah, it was a poor performance. It's difficult. What
do you think, Mark? What do you think we'll get out of this?
Listen, I just don't think there's. I think a lot of United fans would say the same. I just don't think there's any expectation at the moment, and it's a difficult one for me to talk. You know what I'm like. It's difficult to come back and talk about the negativity and obviously the loss of 2 points today, essentially, and with us playing so poor at the moment. And I think with the last remaining games, there's no expectation. And
I don't think it's negative. I think it's realism. I think it's a realistic approach that you're taking. People stick their head in the sand when it comes to football. All the time. I mean, bearing in mind, fellas, there's no God-given right to beat anyone on a football pitch. You have to earn that right to beat people, and we didn't earn the right today, did we? Bournemouth, I think Iriola, bless him, I really didn't know too much about the bloke. A little bit like De Zerbi, when De Zerbi came to Brighton. And De Zerbi's starting to get found out just a little bit, and I expect Iriola to be
with Bayern actually last couple.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I expect Iriola to be maybe found out next year. But what these guys do, they have an ability to generate a nice kind of beehive of what you would class as average Premier League players. And when you've got a nice little collection of average players, very, very difficult to beat.
They play as a team. They're a unit. Everyone.
They run.
is fighting for each other and fighting for the crest on the jersey. You know, I mean, that's the difference. They're putting in the hard graft to make sure their team gets something.
Well,
And what's
for
me is every time one of the teams above us drop points, we cannot capitalise.
No.
I mean, that should be enough incentive for us to go out there and get 3 points when other teams above us that we're supposedly chasing are dropping points week in, week out.
But Bournemouth could potentially finish, I think, 8th this season.
They've had a good season.
Wow. Yeah, they have, yeah.
I mean, you know, we're going to, I think we're staring down the barrel of 7th.
Yeah, I think we've made it so hard for ourselves to actually, I mean, people were going on about top 4, forget about that.
No, we're done. We're done.
It's over. Yeah. No, it's not going to happen.
Top 4 and 5, it's done. It's finished.
Yeah.
Game over.
We are Europa Conference League.
We're not in that in a minute, I don't think.
No, I don't think
right. Let's come on to the player rating. So I know it's a bit difficult, this one, obviously. So, Stu, I'll come to you on Onana.
I liked him. I'm going to give him a 6. People will say that he should have saved both efforts. I'm not convinced. You're not stopping a Solanke strike. Maybe he could have stopped Kluivert, but I thought he looked assured again. I quite like Onana at the minute. So he's turned a corner. Maybe a 7. Maybe a 7. Maybe a 7, actually. Maybe a 6 is a bit harsh.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think his overall
really turned the corner since the new year. I'm glad he's starting to sort of find his feet a little bit, and I do rate him, actually. I do, and you've heard me say this before. I appreciate not everyone's going to agree with that, but give him a bit.
No, I have. You were one of the first. Yeah,
he will be all right, and I think he's showing that a little bit more now. What you got to remember is, I don't want to talk about this too much. Last season, obviously, we talked about David De Gea, the Golden Glove, but the problem is, last year, David De Gea had a solid back four, which is
exactly.
Yeah.
When you've got a solid back four and a midfield, which is absolutely paramount to that, it helps a massive amount. I think when you've not had that sort of stability in front of you, it's very, very difficult. And he's still not conceded. Well, he's up there with the Golden Glove still, right? So I think that shows a lot, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to be a fantastic player for us in the future.
Sorry, Dec. I don't think it's coincidence that last season he was in the Champions League final, rated as the highest, was absolutely massive for Inter Milan, who are a very defensive team. And obviously that helped him out a lot. When you have had 500 odd shots against you in one season and you're still up there with the Golden Glove, I think that says a lot about you and a lot about everyone else in front of you, in my opinion.
What did I say about Martinez coming back, Mark?
Yeah.
6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, I said, Dec, leave him till the summer. Don't bring him back. I said, he'll get injured again. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. And Mark knows me. I'm not a told you so merchant, but I know my football. And I told you, didn't I, Mark?
Yeah,
I told you. I've been told. And I knew it.
No, I mean, if he'd been left till the summer and got a full pre-season in, I mean, it would have been like a new buy for us next season. I think he is just a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
I am.
We could utilise him.
I am a Martinez you're talking about, yeah.
And could you utilise him?
Yeah. I am a bit concerned about him in his injuries. I appreciate the injuries he's had has not been the same this season, but obviously he's had a bit of time out, and that just worrying me a little bit. But absolute monster at the back.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to
sorry.
Dalot. Stu, you were talking about Diogo Dalot earlier. I'm going to come to Dec on this one.
That won't be hard.
I actually, well, just let me say a couple of things first. I think Dalot has actually been one of our better players this season. He wasn't particularly great today. I think something that Stu and I have gone in on Dalot a lot, Dec, is about his positional and defensive awareness, and I think that was a big problem today. But what was your take on Dalot, and what's your rating for him?
Well, I think you're right. He's probably had the best season for us out of the entire team. He's had a great season. It's just small things that he fails to pick up on. And today was one of them. He's either going to have a great game or he's going to make one or two mistakes that we can actually see happening on the pitch. He seems to switch off every so often, and I think that happened today to him. He's definitely come on leaps and bounds from what he was, but he needs to have concentration for the full 90, 99 minutes. You know, he does tend to switch off, and when he switches off, it evidently seems to lead to a goal, unfortunately. I would have given him a 6 today. I think I'm probably giving him a 6 because I think he's played so well all season. Yeah, he was poor enough now today.
Yeah, I think 6 is fair, to be honest. I don't want to score them too low. It's easy to be disappointed.
No,
it is, obviously, but I think 6 is fair. Cam Boala, I've been really impressed with him, actually.
I like him.
And I think coming in, massive game against Liverpool the other week, was very good, very young, inexperienced, same breath as Kobe Mainu, come in, doing his job. I think he's been good, and I was quite impressed with him today. Made a couple of mistakes, obviously, right at the end there with the tackle, which wasn't a penalty in the end, fortunately. Went in a little bit rashly, but you know, it worked out okay in the end, didn't it? But yeah, I'll come to you on that again, Dec, with Cam Boala.
I think he's been great since he came in. I think Stu hit on the head there earlier when he mentioned how well the pitch was watered by the club. I mean, Cam Boala slipped a few times. I don't think that was any mistake. He's a young lad. He's learning the trade. I think he's going to be a great player. I definitely would have given him a 7 for today. Yeah, he did slip a few times. He might have been a bit rash at the end, but he's been great since he's came in for a young lad.
I think Simon's very good, actually. I think that's very fair. And to be honest, for me today, I think he was probably our best player, if I'm honest. I thought he was pretty good. Going to give you your favourite, Stu, Harry Maguire.
Well, he gets a solid 10 again, doesn't he? No, he gets 7 alongside Quabala. He couldn't have done much more today, Maguire. He's carrying a knock, guaranteed. He's carrying a knock. I don't know what injury it is. He's carrying something. But I thought he was terrific today again. Willie wasn't helped by Dallow's positional play, although I do agree he's been better in recent months. I do. And I don't think Maguire was helped by Wan-Bissaka, funnily enough, today. But I do think that Willie Quabala benefited from having Maguire alongside him. And actually, I'd go so far to say as I felt that Maguire benefited from having somebody like Willie Quabala alongside him, somebody equally as physical, presence-wise. And I couldn't split them, and I think Maguire was, again, very, very good today in a 7. He will be, unfortunately, West Ham's captain, I would imagine, next season. I think he will go. Sure. I'd keep him, but I think he'll go.
I don't think he'll go. I think we will keep him, actually. I think he's
do you think he'll stay? Do you think he'll stay?
Yeah, I do, okay. Yeah. To be
honest, Lindelof, 100% Lindelof.
Well, yeah, so actually, I do rate them both, actually, but I think Lindelof, more recently, I think he's a better ball player than Maguire.
He is.
I think aerially and defensively, I think Maguire edges him, and I think they're very, very different, but I feel like Lindelof has dropped off quite a bit, actually. He's out injured quite often, so if anything, I'd probably get rid of him. I just wanted to come to another part, just very quickly before we move on, and we'll speed this up a little bit.
Because sorry, I'm going to have to go as well shortly. I'm just looking at
no problem. So talking about the two defenders, then obviously we've given them 7s today. And in a 2-2 game, I would say that's probably generous. But actually, I think you're both right in the fact that they weren't poor. Now, does that come back to the conundrum earlier with midfield? Do you think the problem is laid there a little bit?
Well, let's put it this way, Mark. You're going to see probably 5s and 6s in the middle of the park.
Okay. Yeah, so there's not too many 7s there.
There's 0 7s for me. I couldn't even give Kobe a 7.
No, not on today's.
I can't. In fact, the front 6. Once you take Wan-Bissaka out the equation, who by the way will get a 6 from me. Well, I feel for. I fear that Højlund's going to get a low score, and I don't think it's necessarily his fault.
No, I don't think it's fair.
He's not getting the service that he needs. He needs to try. He will thrive when he gets the service. And the problem is we're so slow that building it up to him that he's just not getting the service that he needs. He has the potential to be a great player for United, but you have to feed him the ball. He'll do the work if you get the ball to him.
He needs trophy killing Harry Kane by the side of him.
Poor old Harry, the only man that can go to Munich and make sure they don't.
Make sure they don't win. I know they're back 10 points.
I know.
I think they only need 2 more wins, don't they, Leverkusen? And they've won the title.
Yeah, that's all. They've won the title then, yeah.
They've nearly gone unbeaten all season. Can you?
That'd be amazing feat, wouldn't it? Yeah, amazing feat.
Just in response to this, Julio, I don't disagree with you. And my point was, I think this season Inter have been far more attacking. But I think if you look,
you weren't working out points
in the Champions League, they were far more defensive. And I think that Onana and the front four, we were talking about relationships and what's in front of you, and why Onana probably did very, very well last season was due to that. And I think they were far more defensive last season. But yeah, take your point. Right, let's come on to, we've done Wan-Bissaka pretty much. We're coming to the middle three. I will give you Stu, Casemiro and Mainu, and then I will give you Dec, Bruno. So Stu, over to you first.
5 and 6, Casemiro 5. I just couldn't give him anything more. And 6. If he'd scored towards the end, where he had 2 attempts to shoot, by the way, before trying to dribble his way through, and we won the game, he would have got a 6. But he was poor all game. And I just think Kobe's tired. I think he needs a break. And that's the only reason he gets a 6 from me.
Yeah, agreed. Dec, over to you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm giving Bruno an 8 today because he did what I wanted him to do today. He put in a captain's performance. He was dropping so far back on the pitch just to try and get the team going. Definitely. Today, I was delighted with him. He deserved more out of that game because he tried to pull he tried to get the team going. He was always trying to instigate something, So, yeah.
At the end, when the whistle blew. Oh, God.
Yeah.
You want to see. It's what you want to see.
You want to
see a bit of passion there, yeah.
To be honest, I don't even mind the whinging, to be honest, I think you see that all the time. And
he's just been poor, hasn't he? He's just been poor. Had the whinging.
To be honest with you, when he first came in, was banging in goals and getting assists. He was whinging like a bastard then, and I couldn't give a fuck, to be honest. And he does the same now, and it's only.
I think we're just used to seeing players we've had Keane in the past, and all that. Keane would rather rip someone's throat out than be rolling around on the ground, But
to be honest with you, and I've said this to Keane actually in the chat a few weeks ago. I think the difference is Keane, we'd get the job done at that point. He was a whingy fucker as well, right?
He really was.
He was exactly the same. He was no different. But because he had this different presence and we were winning games, it's almost treated differently to Bruno. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, anyway, I like Bruno.
Yeah, me too. He's coming out into.
Big Martin Buchan was the same, Mark, in the 70s. Big Martin Buchan, he was the same old skipper back then. He was a whinging bastard. Scottish, mind you, but there you go.
Right, let's move on to the front three, and then we will finish it there. So I'll give Garnacho and Højlund to Dec, and I'll come to you first, then I'll come to you, Stu, on Rashford. Okay.
See, I hate scoring them so low, but they just didn't have the gameplay today. Garnacho, I'm still going to give him a 6 because at least it just wasn't his day today. I thought he was a bit unfortunate to get subbed off. Højlund, then he didn't get any chances today. He didn't get anything, but I'm not going to be detrimental to him and give him a 5, so I'm going to give him a 6 as well because I don't think he deserved. I don't think he deserved to get anything lower than a 6, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you, and I think that you have to treat the middleman the same as the wingers now, to be honest with you, because they're kind of 3 strikers, however you want to point it, inside forwards, whatever. And I think fundamentally, if the players behind you, which you've spoken about so much today, aren't feeding you, all 3 of them, they're all going to struggle. And I think it's difficult, isn't it? Stu, your one?
What do you do with him? What do you do with him? 5. You're clutching at straws with Rashford, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so, I can only give him a 5, Mark. I'm not. Goldbridge has absolutely bashed him again, hasn't he? Panned him. No, he's offered nothing today for me, so he gets a 5.
100%,
yeah. I think he needs to. He seemed to be playing a lot better a few weeks ago, and for some reason
He was.
kind of dropped off.
He's
Yeah,
gone
but
back
again, the whole
down.
team, we have to look at the whole team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's
yeah. He
performed
didn't get
as
help.
well.
He didn't get help today. The whole team. So,
Right. Thank you, guys. I know it's a late one. I know it's a poor one. I know it's a miserable one, but I really appreciate you both being here. So thank you very much. Dec,
Mark, great to have you
wonderful.
back hosting, pal.
Thank you very much, mate. Dec, great to meet you, buddy. I'd love to get you on another.
Yeah, come back.
Sometime
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
Really fun, good chat.
Yeah, come back.
Right then, guys. As I said, late one Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Thanks for anyone that's tuning in. Get liking, get subscribing, and we will see you next time. A few more shows obviously coming up in the week. So keep your eyes peeled for those. And until then, we'll see you next time.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers, lads.